I'm Dan Campbell. I'm the Assistant Service Manager here at Family Danz Heating and Cooling. I take care of commercial maintenance agreement contracts, a lot of problem solving. I still go out into the field, and I was asked to give you guys a funny service story. After doing it for 20 years, if you average out 5 service calls on average a day over that time frame, it gives me right around 25,000 service calls that I've been out and done. In those 25,000, there's a few that stick out in my mind as possibly being quite humorous. I guess the first one, and the one most people tend to like, is a story. I had gone out to an air conditioner call in the town of Cambridge. And when I pulled in, it's a farm setting, and I had been there before, and the guy has a massive dog pack. He's got 7 or 8 dogs that run around all over the place. And they're all friendly dogs. Like I said, I've been there before working on his furnace. But he has his main house, and then he has a garage that has an in-law apartment over it. And it was the air conditioner in the in-law apartment that was giving him a hard time. So after I spoke with him and been greeted by every one of his dogs numerous times, I grabbed my service tools and I went over to take a look at this air conditioner. So as I'm looking at this air conditioner, I take out my gauges and I put my gauges on there, and I grab a screwdriver and I reach over and I take the cover off and put the screwdriver down. Now I'm on kind of a hill and I'm on my knees, and I put the cover over and I reach for my screwdriver and it's missing. I'm like, okay. It's missing. Must have rolled down the hill or somewhere, or I set it somewhere. So I reach in my tool bag and I grab another one. And I'm using that, and I set that one down, and I get, okay, I got to take care of this, pull out my meter, and I'm testing some electronics. I reach over to grab my screwdriver again. That one's missing. And I'm like, all right, you knucklehead, what's going on here? So, well, let me reach over and grab a pair of needle nose pliers because I got to change out this contactor. So I grab my needle nose pliers and I'm pulling off these spade connectors, and I set it down. I walk to my van to get another contactor and come walking back, kneel down, reach to grab my needle nose pliers. They're missing. Now I get kind of a little frustrated at the time, and I'm looking around. I don't see my tools anywhere. And for some reason, I look over to my right, and there's this big black lab over there with a pile of my tools in front of him. Homeowner standing there. He says, he's got your tools, doesn't he? Yeah. Well, he does that. Don't chase him. Otherwise, he's going to grab them and run with them. So, needless to say, back to my van to get another tool bag. Got those tools. He finally got this lab to calm down a little bit, and he got the tools away from him. But that is my thieving lab story. We can go into one of my favorite stories. Was I got a buddy who came into this industry, and we were working for a different company at the time, but it's still a service call. It's one of my favorites. My buddy, I've known him for years. Great guy, but he was learning to be a technician. So he was learning to be a technician under me, so I took him out, and he was in the final probably 2 weeks of his training. And my buddy's always been afraid of snakes. Deathly afraid of snakes. So prior to the call we were talking about, we were in a house working on a boiler, and it was an old farmhouse. And I looked over, and they had a Bilco door, and under the Bilco door there was 3 snakes down below there in the stairs. And I'm like, oh great, I hope my buddy doesn't see these snakes, because if he sees them, he's going to start freaking out. Well, when you hope for something to keep somebody calm, it's never going to happen. So he sees the snakes and he runs up the stairs, and okay, good. I reach over, get a bucket, and I put these 3, they're just little garter snakes, put them in a bucket, and I take them outside. Of course, my buddy's thinking, he's going to throw a bucket of snakes on me this whole time. I wouldn't do that, well, not in front of the customer anyways. So I release the snakes, this customer's all happy, we move on to our next call. The next call is a no cooling call. Well, some people are real great about keeping their air conditioners, all the brush and things away from their air conditioners. Some people not so great about it. And they'll let weeds and stuff grow up and block some of the airflow. Well, that wasn't an airflow issue, it was an electronic issue. My buddy got down there and he happened to be pulling this out. And the guy had 2 condensing units, one for one side of his house and one for the other side of the house. So my buddy was right between them. And I was standing there, and the homeowner was standing there too. And he was down on his knees, and he was pulling the electric panel off to see what was wrong with this. And he looked down, and there was a snake shed there. Now, of course, remember, the call before this, there was 3 snakes, and snakes unsettle this guy. So, okay, there's a snake shed. He's getting a little itchy about it. Well, the thing is, again, the homeowner, this was one of those homeowners that did let the weeds grow up around it. And the weeds that were growing up around it were those wild raspberries that have the runners that go everywhere. So at that moment in time, my buddy's between the units working on it. I'm standing kind of outside, but between the units, so he can't go through the wall and he can't go through me. And the homeowner decides he's going to start pulling these wild raspberry shrubs. And as he's pulling them, the one he's pulling on next to the second condensing unit, the runner goes all the way around the back of that unit to the wild raspberry bush that's next to the unit my buddy's working on, and it starts shaking it. Of course, at that time he was unsettled about the prior call, and that he started, oh, there's snake. He ran up one side of me, down the other in his efforts to escape. And meanwhile, I couldn't help it. I'm laughing, tears streaming down my face, and the homeowner standing there, what did I do? What did I do? Is he okay? And I can't answer because I'm on the ground laughing. So, I guess after 25,000 service calls, you do have a few out there that are quite memorable and quite enjoyable.